Ambassador Jiwon Kim sat alone in the waiting chamber for the third day in a row. The room was cold and uncomfortable, clearly designed for species that did not need the warmth humans preferred. She wore her formal diplomatic uniform, dark blue with the Earth insignia on her shoulder. Her gray hair was tied back in a neat bun, and despite the exhaustion in her eyes, she maintained perfect posture. Through the transparent wall, she could see other species entering and leaving the council chamber. Some were tall and covered in scales. Others floated in containment fields filled with strange gases. A few looked almost human, but with skin that shimmered like oil on water. Each one was granted immediate entry to speak with the council. Each one was less advanced than humanity. Yet they were heard, and Jiwon was made to wait. Captain Minho Park stood near the entrance, his arms crossed over his chest. He commanded the escort vessel that brought Jiwon to the station. His jaw was tight with barely controlled anger. He had watched his ambassador being disrespected for 3 days now, and his patience was wearing thin. "Ambassador, we should leave," Minho said quietly. "This is deliberately insulting. Earth Command will understand." Jiwon shook her head slightly. "That is exactly what they want, Captain. They want us to leave angry so they can claim we are unreasonable. We stay." Before Minho could respond, the chamber doors finally opened. A tall creature with 4 arms and a head like a lizard emerged. It was one of the council aides, a species called the Vraxi. It looked down at Jiwon with barely hidden contempt. "The council will see the human now," it said, managing to make even this simple statement sound like an insult. Jiwon stood smoothly and walked toward the chamber. Minho moved to follow, but the aide held up one clawed hand. Only the ambassador. Guards and servants wait outside. Minho's face went red, but Jiwon touched his arm gently. "Wait here, Captain. I will be fine." The council chamber was vast and circular, with seats arranged in tiers rising up toward the ceiling. Hundreds of different species sat in those seats, representing thousands of worlds. At the center, on the highest platform, sat High Chancellor Velthar. He was Vraxi like the aide, but larger and more heavily decorated with jewelry that proclaimed his status. Jiwon walked to the center of the chamber floor. There was no chair for her. She would have to stand while they sat in comfort above her. Another calculated insult. She stood straight and waited. Velthar looked down at her as one might look at an insect. "The human may speak." "Thank you, High Chancellor," Jiwon said, her voice calm and professional. "I come on behalf of Earth to formally request full membership in the Galactic Council. Humanity has been part of the galactic community for 200 years. We have followed all protocols and met all requirements. We ask only for the recognition we have earned." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some sounded amused. Others sounded annoyed that their time was being wasted on this matter. Velthar leaned forward slightly. "Humanity requests membership? How entertaining. Tell me, human, what makes your species believe you are ready to sit among civilizations that have existed for thousands of years? You barely crawled out of your single planet 2 centuries ago. Most species here have been traveling the stars for longer than your written history. We have proven ourselves capable." Jiwon replied evenly. "Our technology is advanced. Our society is stable. We have established colonies on 17 worlds and maintain peaceful relations with all neighboring species." "Peaceful?" Velthar laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "You maintain peace because you are too weak to threaten anyone. Do not mistake our tolerance for respect, human." Jiwon felt anger rising in her chest but kept her voice steady. "With respect, High Chancellor, humanity has much to offer this council. Our scientific achievements are primitive," Velthar interrupted. "You stumbled onto faster-than-light travel by accident, finding ancient wreckage on your 4th planet. You did not invent it through genius. You copied it like children copying their betters." The murmurs of agreement grew louder. Jiwon noticed that not all council members seemed to agree with Velthar, but none spoke up to defend humanity. There was one, however, a smaller creature with silver skin and large eyes, who watched the proceedings with what looked like concern. This was Councillor Brixnell, one of the few council members who had treated human diplomats with any courtesy in the past. Velthar continued, his voice growing harder. "Furthermore, the council has decided that humanity requires guidance. You are like children playing with dangerous tools. Therefore, we will be establishing governance outposts in your solar system. These outposts will ensure that humanity develops properly and does not become a danger to yourselves or others." The chamber fell silent. This was not what Jiwon had expected. They were not simply denying Earth's membership. They were announcing what amounted to an occupation. High Chancellor, Ji-won said carefully, Earth cannot accept foreign military installations in our home system. This would be viewed as an act of war by our government. Velthar's eyes narrowed. War? You speak of war? Foolish human. You have no concept of what war means at the galactic scale. Your entire military could not defeat a single council battle group. Perhaps, Ji-won acknowledged, but I strongly advise against testing that assumption. Humanity may surprise you. This time Velthar actually laughed out loud and much of the council joined him. Surprise us with what? Your ships are slow and poorly armed. Your worlds are barely defended. We have studied your capabilities extensively, human. You are not a threat. You are barely a nuisance. Ji-won felt her heart sinking. She had hoped to avoid this moment, but they had left her no choice. High Chancellor, I request an emergency session to demonstrate Earth's defensive capabilities. I believe there has been a serious miscalculation in your assessment of... Denied, Velthar cut her off. The Council has made its decision. You will return to Earth and inform your leaders that they have 72 hours to accept Council authority. If they refuse, corrective military action will be taken. These outposts will be established whether you consent or not. Ji-won stood in silence for a moment. She had practiced this moment many times, knowing it might come. She had hoped it would not. High Chancellor, members of the Council, I am begging you to reconsider. What you are proposing will lead to consequences that none of us want. Humanity does not wish for conflict, but we will defend our sovereignty. Please, allow me to show you why this course of action is a mistake. Enough, Velthar declared. You have 72 hours. That is our final word. This audience is concluded. Ji-won bowed slightly, a gesture of respect she no longer felt. As she turned to leave, she caught Councillor Bricksnell's eye. The small creature looked genuinely worried. That at least was something. Captain Minho was waiting outside, and the moment he saw Ji-won's face, he knew it had gone badly. Captain, Ji-won said quietly as they walked back toward their vessel. Please send an encrypted message to Earth Command. Priority level absolute. Tell them the Council has rejected all diplomatic options and issued an ultimatum. Tell them to activate Protocol Longbow. Minho's eyes widened. Protocol Longbow was the code name for Earth's final defensive plan. The one they hoped would never be needed. Are you certain, Ambassador? Ji-won looked out at the stars through the station's viewing port. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, the planet that had given humanity everything. They would not surrender it without a fight. I am certain, Captain. The Council thinks we are helpless children. They are about to learn that humanity grew up in a very dangerous neighborhood. We learned to be ready for monsters. Send the message. As they boarded their ship and prepared to depart, none of the Council members paid them any attention. They were already discussing which ships to send to Earth, how quickly the operation would conclude, how little resistance they expected. High Chancellor Velthar retired to his private chambers, satisfied with the day's work. Another primitive species would be brought under proper guidance. It was all very routine. Only Councillor Bricksnell remained troubled. Something about the human ambassador's composure bothered him. She had not seemed frightened or angry. She had seemed sad, as if grieving for something that had not yet happened. He pulled up the files on humanity again, reading through them carefully. They seemed so unremarkable. A young species, limited technology, small population. Nothing to worry about. But then why did he feel such unease? Fleet Admiral Kexthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the endless victory, and felt satisfaction wash over him. Below his viewing platform, dozens of officers worked at their stations. Beyond the ship's windows, space was filled with vessels as far as the eye could see. 800 warships from 47 different species, all under his command. It was the largest fleet assembly in Council history. Status report, Kexthor commanded, his voice carrying across the bridge. All vessels report ready, Admiral, his second officer replied. We await only your order to enter slip space. Kexthor nodded slowly. This would be the easiest campaign of his career. The humans had no idea what was coming for them. He had conquered 12 worlds in his long service to the Council. Some had fought bravely. Some had surrendered immediately. All had eventually accepted Council rule. These humans would be no different. Set course for the human home system, he ordered. Transit time 6 hours. All ships maintain battle formation. When we arrive, I want the humans to see exactly what they face. The fleet began its jump into slip space, leaving normal space in flashes of twisted light. Meanwhile, on a small communication station hidden in neutral space, Lieutenant Hyun Lee was working the night shift. She was young, barely 25, and this was her first assignment in Earth's intelligence division. The work was usually boring, monitoring council communications and cataloging ship movements. Tonight was different. "Oh no," Hyun whispered as her screen filled with data. "Oh no, no, no." She immediately opened an encrypted channel to Earth Command. "This is Station Whisper 7. I have multiple priority alerts. The Council fleet is moving. Repeat, the Council fleet is moving toward Earth. Ship count is 800. Estimated arrival time 6 hours. Requesting immediate orders." The response came back within seconds. Confirmed Whisper 7. "Continue monitoring. Do not break cover under any circumstances. Earth Command is aware and responding." Hyun sat back in her chair, her hands shaking slightly. 800 ships. She had known humanity's defensive plans were extensive, but could they really handle that many enemies at once? Back on Council Station Omega 7, Ambassador Jiwon was making one last desperate attempt. She had requested an emergency private meeting with Councillor Brixnell, one of the few council members who seemed reasonable. They met in a small diplomatic suite, away from the main chambers. Brixnell entered quietly, his silver skin seeming to shimmer with anxiety. "Ambassador Kim, I should not be here." "If the High Chancellor discovers I met with you, then we must be brief," Jiwon interrupted gently. "Counselor, I need you to understand something. Earth's history is not what the Council believes it to be." "I have read the files," Brixnell said. "Your species achieved space travel 200 years ago after finding ancient technology. You have expanded slowly and cautiously. These facts are not disputed." "Those facts are correct but incomplete," Jiwon replied. She pulled out a small data device. "What the Council does not know is why we expanded so slowly. It was not because we lacked ability. It was because we were preparing." Brixnell took the device hesitantly. "Preparing for what?" "For the galaxy we discovered when we first looked to the stars," Jiwon said softly. "Counselor, when humanity found that ancient wreckage on Mars, we did not just find faster-than-light technology. We found the remains of a civilization that had been destroyed. We found weapon signatures, battle damage, evidence of warfare on a scale that terrified us." She gestured to the device. "We spent the next 50 years simply listening. We observed the Council. We watched how new species were treated. We saw strong species dominate weak ones. We saw the Council enforce its will through military might, and we made a decision." "What decision?" Brixnell asked, though he felt he already knew the answer. "We decided that if we entered the galaxy, we would do so from a position where no one could ever force us to submit. Every colony we built, every station we constructed, every seemingly civilian outpost was designed with one purpose: to make Earth impossible to conquer. We spent 200 years turning our entire solar system into a fortress." Brixnell's large eyes widened. "You are claiming your defensive capabilities are greater than the Council knows?" "I am saying that your fleet is sailing into a trap," Jiwon said urgently. "I am saying that 800 ships sounds like overwhelming force to you, but to us it is 800 targets. Please, Counselor, you seem like a good person. Help me stop this before it is too late." Brixnell looked at the data device in his hands. Part of him wanted to dismiss this as human bravado, the desperate bluff of a weaker species, but the ambassador's eyes held no deception. She was not boasting. She was pleading. "I will try," he said finally. "But the High Chancellor is convinced this will be a simple operation. He will not listen to me easily." "Try anyway," Jiwon begged. "Because if that fleet reaches Earth, it will not return, and then there will be no path back to peace." Brixnell hurried from the room, the data device hidden in his robes. He went directly to the High Chancellor's office, requesting an immediate audience. Velthar granted it, though he seemed annoyed by the interruption. "This had better be important, Brixnell." "High Chancellor, I have received information from the human ambassador. I believe we should delay the fleet's arrival and review." "Information from the human?" Velthar's voice was cold. "And you believed her? You come to me with enemy propaganda?" "Sir, please just look at the data." "If there is even a chance that there is no chance," Velthar cut him off. "The humans are desperate and lying. Our intelligence is thorough. Fleet Admiral Kexthor has conquered far stronger species than these primitives. You will not mention this again, Brixnell. I am disappointed that you let yourself be manipulated so easily." Brixenal left the office, his heart heavy. He had tried. Now all he could do was watch. Aboard the UNSS Indomitable, Captain Minho received new orders from Earth Command. He read them twice to be sure he understood correctly. "Attention all crew," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We are implementing Evacuation Protocol Delta. All non-essential personnel will board the stealth shuttles immediately. Essential crew will remain until final phase." This is not a drill. His crew moved efficiently, having practiced this exact scenario dozens of times. They knew what was coming. The Indomitable was not a warship despite its appearance. It was bait. A sacrifice to make the Council believe they understood Earth's capabilities. As the shuttles departed silently, their stealth systems making them invisible to the station's sensors, the Indomitable itself began to transform. Hidden panels in the hull slid open, revealing sensor arrays of incredible sophistication. The ship was not meant to fight. It was meant to watch and record everything that was about to happen. In Earth's solar system, Defense Coordinator Doyen Han sat in a command center buried deep inside one of Saturn's moons. Around him, dozens of officers monitored screens showing every corner of the solar system. They had been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Every human alive knew about the defensive network. Children learned about it in school. It was humanity's insurance policy against a hostile galaxy. "Status?" Doyen asked calmly. "All defensive platforms are online and ready," an officer reported. "The asteroid belt weapons are charged. Planetary accelerators are in standby mode. Stealth mines are positioned. We have confirmed targeting solutions for all 800 incoming vessels. Time until Council fleet arrival. 3 hours and 42 minutes, sir." Doyen nodded. He was an older man in his 60s, and he had spent 30 years working on Earth's defenses. He had hoped this day would never come. He had prayed the Council would be reasonable. But humanity had learned long ago that hope was not a strategy. "Send message to all defensive stations," he ordered. "Weapons hold. We fire only if fired upon. If there is any chance of peace, we take it." Throughout the solar system, thousands of hidden weapons platforms received the order. Guns built into asteroids, missile batteries hidden on moons, energy weapons concealed in debris fields, ships disguised as mining vessels. All held their fire waiting. In slipspace, Fleet Admiral Kexthor gathered his senior officers for a final briefing. "Gentlemen, this operation will be concluded swiftly. The humans have perhaps 24 warships to defend their home world. We have 800. The mathematics are simple. When we arrive, we will position the fleet in a standard blockade formation around their 4th planet. We will give them one final chance to surrender. If they refuse, we will disable their orbital defenses and land peacekeeping forces. Expected resistance minimal. Expected casualties negligible. Expected duration 4 hours from arrival to complete control." His officers nodded confidently. This was routine. They had done this before. Only Navigator Yuji, a young officer recently promoted, dared to ask a question. "Admiral, what if the human ambassador was telling the truth? What if they have hidden defenses?" Kexthor smiled indulgently. "Then we will destroy those defenses too. Young Yuji, I understand your caution, but trust in our intelligence services. Trust in our technology. Trust in the simple fact that 800 warships have never lost a battle in Council history. The humans are brave to resist, but bravery without strength is just suicide with extra steps." Fleet Admiral Kexthor stood on his bridge and felt the satisfaction of a predator spotting easy prey. His tactical display showed the human defensive positions clearly. 23 ships, arranged in what appeared to be a protective formation around their home world. Against his 800 vessels, it was laughable. "All ships advance to battle formation Theta," he commanded. "Maintain spacing. I want the humans to count every ship we have. Let them understand how hopeless their situation is." The massive fleet began moving deeper into the solar system, their formation perfect and intimidating. They passed Neptune without incident. They crossed the orbit of Uranus smoothly. Everything seemed routine. Navigator Yuji kept staring at his sensors, his discomfort growing. "Admiral, those gravitational anomalies I mentioned, they are increasing as we advance into the system. I am now detecting tens of thousands of small mass signatures. The distribution is too regular to be natural." "Perhaps the humans are messy," Kexthor replied with amusement. "Perhaps they leave their garbage floating in space. Stay focused on military targets, Yuji." But Yuji could not shake his unease. He pulled up a visual representation of all the mass signatures in the system and stared at it. There were thousands of objects clustered around the inner planets, thousands more in the asteroid belt between the fourth and fifth planets, more scattered throughout the outer system. The pattern looked almost like a net. On Council Station Omega-7, Councillor Brixnell sat in the observation center, watching the long-range sensor feeds from the fleet. Ambassador G1 stood beside him, having been allowed access as a courtesy. They watched in silence as the Council fleet advanced. "There is still time to recall them," G1 said quietly. "The High Chancellor will not listen," Brixnell replied, his voice heavy with resignation. "I tried to warn him." "I truly did." "I know," G1 said. "Thank you for trying. When this is over, I hope you remember that humanity offered peace until the very end." Something in her tone made Brixnell turn to look at her. She was not watching the display with fear or hope. She was watching it with the sadness of someone attending a funeral. Deep inside Saturn's moon titan, Defense Coordinator Doyen Han watched his own tactical displays. They showed every Council ship, their positions, their courses, their speeds. Earth's sensor network was far more advanced than the Council suspected. Humanity had spent 2 centuries building it, hiding sensors in everything from communication satellites to mining drones. "Status of all defensive systems?" Doyen asked. "All platforms report ready," his second-in-command replied. "Asteroid belt weapons are online. Planetary accelerators have full charge. Stealth mines are in position. We have targeting locks on all 800 enemy vessels." Doyen nodded slowly. The Council fleet was advancing exactly as Earth strategists had predicted. They were following their standard doctrine perfectly, which meant they were moving directly into the most dangerous area of space in human-controlled territory. "Hold fire until my command," Doyen said. "We are still hoping they will turn back." But even as he said it, he knew they would not. Captain Minho Park watched from his stealth vessel, hidden among Saturn's rings. His ship's sensors were recording everything. If humanity survived this day, these recordings would ensure that future generations understood what had happened here. The Indomitable, his former command, was now just a shell crewed by a skeleton team of volunteers who understood they might not survive. "The Council fleet is passing Jupiter's orbit," his sensor officer reported. "They are maintaining formation. No signs of caution or concern." Minho's jaw tightened. The Council's arrogance was going to cost them everything. Aboard the Endless Victory, Fleet Admiral Kexthor was growing impatient. "Open a communication channel to the human vessels. Let us offer them one final chance to surrender." A moment later, a human face appeared on his screen. It was a woman in military uniform, her expression calm and professional. "This is Admiral Park Soon-mi of the Earth Defense Force. You are entering Earth's sovereign space without permission. Turn back now and we will consider this a misunderstanding. Advance further and we will defend ourselves." Kexthor smiled. "Admiral Park, I am Fleet Admiral Kexthor of the Galactic Council. You are surrounded by 800 warships. You have 23. I admire your courage, but surely you see reason. Stand down your vessels and no harm will come to your people. Resist and your species will learn a hard lesson about defying the Council." Admiral Sunmi's expression did not change. "Fleet Admiral, you have been warned multiple times about the consequences of this action. Our ambassador begged your council to reconsider. You ignored her. You are now 500,000 kilometers from our designated defense perimeter. If you cross that line, we will respond with force." "Your defense perimeter?" Kexthor laughed. "My dear Admiral, we crossed into your solar system hours ago. We are already inside your territory. The only question is whether your species submits peacefully or learns obedience through pain." "Then you have made your choice," Admiral Soon-mi said softly. "May your gods have mercy on you because we will not." The communication cut off. Kexthor shook his head in amazement. These humans truly did not understand their situation. "All ships continue advance. Prepare to disable the human vessels on my command." The fleet moved forward, crossing the invisible line that Earth had designated as their defense perimeter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Navigator Yuji's console began screaming with alerts. "Admiral, energy spikes throughout the system. Those mass signatures I detected, they are all powering up simultaneously. Thousands of them!" Kexthor spun toward the tactical display. What he saw made no sense. Every asteroid, every piece of debris, every small object his sensors had dismissed as space junk was suddenly radiating energy. Weapons platforms, hidden guns, missile batteries, shield generators. The entire solar system was lighting up like a festival night. Impossible, Kexthor whispered. Inside Titan's command center, Doyen Han spoke 2 words into his microphone. Light them. Across the solar system, every single hidden defensive platform activated its identification systems. The Council fleet's sensors were suddenly overwhelmed with targets. Not 23 ships, not even 200, thousands upon thousands of weapons platforms, all targeting the Council fleet simultaneously. The asteroid belt, which the Council had planned to use as cover for their advance, revealed itself to be the largest weapons platform ever constructed. Every single asteroid had been hollowed out over decades. Inside each one were railguns, missile batteries, and energy weapons powerful enough to crack planets. There were over 10,000 such asteroids, all aiming at the Council fleet. The planets themselves were armed. Mercury, closest to the Sun, had massive magnetic acceleration systems built into its surface. Venus, hidden beneath its thick clouds, hosted dozens of weapon platforms. Earth's moon was not a moon anymore. It was a fortress. Mars had been terraformed not for colonization but for war, its surface covered in hidden launch facilities. Even the outer planets had not been left untouched. Jupiter's moons hosted sensor stations and missile platforms. Saturn's rings concealed hundreds of stealth ships like Captain Minho's. Uranus and Neptune's orbits were mined with devices that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. Mother of the Void, Yuji whispered, staring at his display. The entire solar system is a weapon. Kexthor stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what his sensors were showing him. He had brought 800 ships to conquer a primitive species. That primitive species had built tens of thousands of weapon platforms and somehow hidden them until this exact moment. Emergency battle formation, he shouted. All ships engage defensive maneuvers. Scatter and evade. But it was already too late. The Council fleet was in the worst possible position, clustered together in their tight formation, surrounded on all sides by weapons they had not known existed. On Council Station Omega-7, the long-range sensors suddenly showed the solar system transformed. Where there had been mostly empty space, now there were weapon signatures everywhere. Councillor Brixenol felt his blood run cold. How? He whispered. How did they hide all of this? Ambassador Jiwon answered quietly. We did not hide it, Councillor. Your scouts saw every asteroid we moved. Your sensors detected every station we built. You simply assumed it was civilian infrastructure because we wanted you to. We built our weapons in plain sight and you never looked closely enough to see what they really were. High Chancellor Velthar burst into the observation center, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. What is this? What trick is this? It is not a trick, Jiwon said, her voice heavy with sadness. It is 200 years of preparation. It is what happens when a young species encounters a galaxy that rules through force and decides never to be weak again. I warned you. I begged you. You would not listen. On the bridge of the Endless Victory, Kexthor was shouting orders desperately. All ships scatter. Break formation. Get us out of this trap. His fleet was trying to respond, but they were in chaos. Ships were breaking formation in every direction, trying to create space, trying to find escape routes. But everywhere they turned, they found more weapons targeting them. The moment Defense Coordinator Doyen spoke the word swords, everything changed. The hidden weapons platforms throughout the solar system did not fire immediately. Instead, something far more terrifying happened. Beneath the surfaces of Mercury, Venus, Earth's moon, and Mars, massive magnetic acceleration systems activated. These were not weapons in the traditional sense. They were planetary-scale launchers built over 2 centuries, each one capable of accelerating objects to a fraction of light speed. Fleet Admiral Kexthor saw his tactical display light up with new contacts. Millions of them. Small objects, each no larger than a ball that children play with, suddenly appearing on sensors throughout the system. They had been there all along, invisible to his scanners, positioned carefully over months by stealth vessels. Now they were active, their guidance systems coming online. What are those? Kexthor demanded, pointing at his screen. Navigator Yuji's hands shook as he analyzed the readings. Admiral, they appear to be simple kinetic projectiles. Metal spheres. Thousands of them surrounding every ship in our fleet. Kinetic projectiles? Kexthor felt a moment of relief. Kinetic weapons were primitive. His ships had shields designed to stop far worse. Raise shields to maximum. All ships prepare point defense systems. But then the planetary accelerators fired. They did not target the Council ships directly. Instead, they locked onto those millions of small metal spheres floating in space. In a fraction of a second, magnetic fields powerful enough to be seen from orbit grabbed the projectiles and hurled them forward. The physics were simple but devastating. Each metal sphere weighed perhaps 5 kilograms. When accelerated to 30% of light speed, each one carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear explosion, and there were not dozens of these projectiles, not hundreds. There were millions. The first ship to die was the Endless Victory itself. 3 tungsten spheres, each accelerated to impossible speeds, struck the flagship within a millisecond of each other. The Council's shields were powerful, designed to stop energy weapons and normal kinetic weapons. They were not designed for projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The spheres passed through the shields as if they were not there. The first one struck the ship's forward hull and instantly converted a section 50 meters wide into superheated plasma. The second struck near the engines. The third hit the bridge section. The kinetic energy released was so immense that it created a shockwave visible from Earth. The Endless Victory simply ceased to exist as a functional vessel. One moment it was there. The next it was an expanding cloud of debris and radiation. Fleet Admiral Kexthor did not even have time to scream. One instant he was standing on his bridge, the next he was gone, along with everyone aboard his ship. Across the solar system, the same thing happened to 799 other Council vessels. The attack had been calculated with mathematical precision. Each ship faced between 3 and 12 projectiles depending on its size and importance. The smaller escort vessels received 3 hits each. The larger battleships received 12. None of it mattered. Against relativistic kinetic weapons, there was no defense. Captain Minho Park watched from his hidden position in Saturn's rings. His sensors recorded everything, but his mind struggled to process it. The entire Council fleet was dying. Not fighting and losing, not retreating in defeat, but simply dying. Hundreds of ships turned into clouds of debris in seconds. It was not a battle. It was an execution. His communications officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Captain, the entire fleet. They are all gone." "I know," Minho whispered. He felt no joy in this. 800 ships meant hundreds of thousands of crew members. Different species, different cultures, but all living beings who had woken up this morning not knowing they would die today. He thought of his own crew safely hidden throughout the system, and felt grateful they were alive. On Council Station Omega-7, the observation center had gone completely silent. The long-range sensors showed 800 ship signatures one moment, and nothing but debris fields the next. High Chancellor Velthar stood frozen, staring at the displays as if he could change what they showed through will alone. Councillor Brixnell turned to look at Ambassador Jiwan. The human diplomat had tears running down her face. "You are crying?" Brixnell asked in confusion. "Your people just won a great victory." "We did not want victory," Jiwan said, her voice breaking. "We wanted peace. All those lives lost because your leaders would not listen. Do you think we celebrate this? We are humans, Counselor. We know the cost of war. We remember our own history when we nearly destroyed ourselves. We built these defenses hoping never to use them. And your council forced us to kill hundreds of thousands." She wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. "How long before your leadership understands what just happened?" The answer came within minutes. A communication request from Earth appeared on the observation center's main display. High Chancellor Velthar, still in shock, did not respond. Brixnell reached over and accepted it. Defense Coordinator Doyen's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and sad, not triumphant. "High Chancellor Velthar, members of the Galactic Council, my name is Defense Coordinator Doyen Han. I am speaking to you from Earth's Defense Command. Your fleet has been neutralized. Not defeated, not damaged, neutralized, gone. This engagement lasted exactly 17 seconds from first shot to last." He paused to let that sink in. "I want to be very clear about something. What you just witnessed was our defensive capability. We have not yet deployed a single offensive warship. Every weapon you saw was a fixed defense platform. If we choose to go on the offensive, if we choose to bring our fleet to you, there will be nothing you can do to stop us." Velthar finally found his voice. You murdered 800 ships, hundreds of thousands of... We defended our home," Doyen interrupted, his voice hard as steel. "After warning you repeatedly, after our ambassador begged for peace, after giving you every opportunity to turn back. You chose to attack us, High Chancellor. We simply chose to survive. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. Now we come to a decision point. You can accept that humanity is not some primitive species to be conquered. You can work with us to establish genuine peace and cooperation. Or you can try to destroy us and we will respond by destroying you, not just your fleets, your worlds, your stations, your entire civilization. We have the capability and you just saw proof of it. This is madness, Velthar whispered. You cannot threaten the entire council. We are not threatening, Doyen said quietly. We are stating facts. Your fleet came to conquer us. It is gone. If you send another fleet, it will be gone too. If you send 100 fleets, they will all be gone. You cannot win this war, High Chancellor. You can only choose how many of your people die before you accept that truth. He paused and his expression softened slightly. I am a soldier, not a diplomat. Ambassador Kim will be returning to present Earth's formal terms for peace. I strongly suggest you listen to her this time, because the alternative is that we start visiting your worlds with the same level of force you brought to ours, and nobody wants that. The communication ended. The observation center remained silent. Finally, one of the junior council members spoke up. High Chancellor, what do we do? Velthar did not answer. He was still staring at the displays, showing nothing but debris where his fleet had been. His entire worldview had shattered in 17 seconds. The council was supposed to be supreme. They were supposed to be the strongest force in the galaxy. They had maintained that position for 10,000 years. And a species they had dismissed as primitives had just proven that none of it mattered. Strength was not about how long you had been in space. It was about how well you prepared for war. Councillor Brixnall stepped forward. We listen to them, that is what we do. We listen as we should have from the beginning. Inside Titan's command center, Doyen Han deactivated the communication and slumped in his chair. Around him, his officers sat in stunned silence. They had trained for this scenario countless times, but the reality was different from training. They had just killed more people in 17 seconds than humanity had lost in all its wars combined. Sir, one of his officers said hesitantly, are we really prepared to attack their worlds if they refuse peace? Doyen looked at her steadily. No, we are not. We built defenses, not invasion fleets. But they do not know that. They just saw us destroy 800 ships in seconds. They will believe we can do anything, so it was a bluff. It was survival, Doyen corrected. We made them afraid. Fear will accomplish what reason could not. They will negotiate now because they have no choice. Lieutenant Hyun Lee, still at her monitoring station in neutral space, had watched the entire engagement through remote sensors. She sat back in her chair, her hands shaking. She was young and had never seen combat before. 17 seconds. That was all it took to change everything. She sent her report to Earth Command, trying to keep her voice steady. Station Whisper 7 reporting. Council fleet has been neutralized. No human casualties. Awaiting further orders. The response came back quickly. Acknowledged, Whisper 7. Maintain observation. The next phase is diplomatic. Hyun looked at her screens, showing the debris fields where 800 ships used to be. 1 week after the 17-second war, Ambassador Ji-won Kim returned to Council Station Omega-7. This time, there was no waiting period. The moment her ship docked, an entire delegation of council members came to greet her personally. High Chancellor Velthar was among them, though he looked like he had aged decades in the past 7 days. Ambassador Kim, Velthar said, his voice lacking all its previous arrogance. The council requests your immediate presence. We are ready to discuss peace terms. Ji-won nodded gracefully. She was accompanied by Captain Minho Park, who wore his full dress uniform and walked slightly behind her. The council members noticed that while he was respectful, he was also clearly observing everything with tactical awareness. They had learned that humans were always thinking several steps ahead. The council chamber was full when Ji-won entered. Every seat was occupied. Representatives from all member species had gathered, and for the first time in 10,000 years, they all stood when a diplomat entered. It was a sign of respect, of acknowledgement that the power dynamic had fundamentally changed. Ji-won walked to the center of the chamber, but this time there was a chair waiting for her, not on the floor, but on a raised platform equal to the council members themselves. She sat down calmly, waiting. High Chancellor Velthar spoke first, and the words clearly pained him. The Galactic Council formally apologizes to humanity for our actions. We acknowledge that we made a grave error in judgment. We recognize Earth's sovereignty over its claimed territories and all human colonies. We withdraw any claim to establish governance outposts in your space. We ask for peace. The chamber was silent. Every species present understood what was happening. The Council had never apologized before, never admitted error, never asked for anything. They commanded and others obeyed. But 800 destroyed ships had taught them humility. Jiwan stood and spoke clearly so all could hear. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I accept your apology. We acknowledge that war was not what either side truly wanted. However, accepting your apology is not the same as returning to how things were before. The Council's actions have revealed deep problems in how this galaxy operates. If we are to have genuine peace, these problems must be addressed. She pulled out a data device and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, visible to all. These are Earth's terms. I will explain each one. The first item appeared. Counselor Brixnell read it aloud. The Galactic Council must transform from a military enforcement body into a genuine diplomatic organization. All member species shall have equal voting rights regardless of military strength or technological level. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species had joined the Council not through choice but through conquest. The idea of having equal say was revolutionary. G1 continued. For 10,000 years, the Council has operated on the principle that might makes right. Strong species dominate weak ones. That ends now. If the Council is to be a true galactic community, it must treat all members with equal respect. The second term appeared. Earth will share its defensive technology freely with any species that requests it. We will not share offensive weapons, but we will help any world that wants to defend itself from aggression. Velthar spoke up. You would arm other species against us? Against anyone, Jiwan corrected, including against us. We believe that peace is not achieved by one strong power protecting everyone else. Peace is achieved when everyone is strong enough that war becomes pointless. We will help create a galaxy where no one can be conquered, where every species can feel safe. The third term appeared, and this one caused the most reaction. Earth requests full Council membership with one specific authority. We want veto power over any military action proposed by the Council. We do not seek to control economic policy, trade agreements, or diplomatic matters. Only military decisions. You want control over our military? One Council member objected. We want to ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else, Jiwan replied firmly. We want the power to stop wars of conquest before they begin. If a species truly threatens galactic peace, the Council can still act. But it will require genuine discussion and consensus, not just the strong attacking the weak. The fourth term appeared. All Council species that participated in the attack on Earth must contribute to a new fund. This fund will be used to protect developing species from aggression. We are not asking for reparations to Earth. We are asking you to help protect others as you should have protected us. Velthar nodded slowly. These terms are acceptable. Is there anything else? Yes, Jiwan said quietly. One final term, and this one is non-negotiable. The Council must publicly acknowledge what happened here. You must tell every species in the galaxy that you attacked a peaceful world and lost. You must admit that humanity tried to avoid conflict and you forced it upon us. The truth must be known. The chamber erupted in protests. Many Council members objected, saying it would make them look weak, that it would encourage rebellion, that it would destroy the Council's authority. Jiwan waited for them to quiet down, then spoke. The Council's authority was built on fear, on the belief that no one could stand against you. That authority is already destroyed. 800 ships are gone. You cannot hide that. Every species in the galaxy knows what happened. The only question is whether you control the narrative by telling the truth, or whether you let rumors and fear fill the void. She paused, looking around the chamber. Tell the truth. Admit you were wrong. Show the galaxy that even the Council can learn and change. That is the only way to rebuild trust. Premier Suji Quan, Earth civilian leader, chose that moment to enter the chamber. She was an elderly woman, 70 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes. But despite her gentle appearance, everyone present knew she represented the civilization that had just reshaped galactic politics through force. May I speak? Suji asked politely. Velthar nodded, unable to deny her anything at this point. Suji walked to stand beside Jiwan. Members of the Council, I am Suji Quan, Premier of Earth. I came here to help you understand something important. My people are not warriors. We do not love fighting. We do not seek glory in battle. But we remember. We remember a time when we almost destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons. We remember wars that killed millions. We remember the edge of extinction. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with different council members. When we first reached space and saw how this galaxy operated, we were terrified. We saw strong species dominating weak ones. We saw the council enforcing its will through military might. And we made a choice. We chose to be strong enough that no one would ever be able to force us to submit. We spent 200 years preparing for the worst day possible. That day came 1 week ago. You brought 800 ships to conquer us. We destroyed them in 17 seconds. But do you know what? We are not celebrating. Our people are grieving. We are mourning the hundreds of thousands who died. Because we remember that every being on those ships was someone's child, someone's friend, someone's family. Tears appeared in Suji's eyes. We built those weapons hoping never to use them. We prepared for war while praying for peace, and when you forced us to fight, we did what we had to do to survive. But we take no joy in it. She wiped her eyes and her voice became stronger. The galaxy has a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We prepared. We were ready. Now we want the peace we paid for. We want a galaxy where species talk to each other instead of threatening each other, where disagreements are solved through negotiation, not conquest, where every world can feel safe. We do not want to rule you, Suji continued. We want to make sure no one rules through fear ever again. That is why our terms are designed not to control the council, but to limit its power to hurt others. We want to build something better together. The chamber was completely silent. Premier Suji's words had reached them in a way that threats and displays of power could not. She was showing them that humans were not monsters who loved war. They were a young species, still carrying the trauma of their own violent history, trying to create a better future. Councillor Brixnell stood. I speak for myself, not for all the council, but I believe we should accept Earth's terms completely and without reservation. They are more generous than we deserve. They offer us a chance to become better than we were. Other council members began standing, adding their support. Not all of them, not immediately, but enough. The tide had turned. Within an hour, a formal vote was called. Earth's terms were accepted by an overwhelming majority. High Chancellor Velthar stood and made a final announcement. The Council accepts all terms presented by Earth. We will restructure ourselves as proposed. We will share the truth of what happened, and we welcome humanity as a full Council member with the authorities requested. Let this be the beginning of a new era. 3 months later, Captain Minho Park stood on a viewing platform in Earth orbit. Below him, construction was underway on a massive vessel. It was a joint project between humans and dozens of Council species, designed by shared knowledge and built with cooperation. The ship was not a warship. It was an explorer, designed to travel to the edges of known space and beyond.